welcome back, everyone. It is just past 8 in the a.m. and time for our second discussion of the day. And this has been a story we've all been following for quite some time as wildfires have scorched Savannah Hill of Mount Bromo in East Java for 5 consecutive days following a pre-wedding photo shoot mishap, which destroyed an estimated 504 hectares of land within the mountainous areas.
That's right. Now, after several efforts to put out the fire, Bromo Tengger Semeru National Park Center has finally reopened for tourists today. Now, this was announced after the wildfire was declared completely extinguished.
Indeed, and as we look back at this case, it makes us wonder, should tourism in natural environments be off limits to tourists? And what are the after effects caused by tourism itself to the environment? Or perhaps maybe there are benefits other than money that can be obtained through nature. We'll try to discuss all of these issues and more with Forest and Wildlife Program Director of the WWF, or World Wildlife Fund, Muhammad Ali Imron. Good morning. Thank you for joining us here today.
Thank you for the invitation.
All right. So tell us a little bit from your perspective. Tell us about the wildfire that damaged. How did it become so extensive?
Yeah, I think there are 3 main causal factors that make fire happen.
Okay.
First, the biomass itself. The second is the if the biomass should be flammability. And the third is ignition.
Okay.
So those 3 factors should be there. So, and for the first one, the biomass itself, it came from the grass in the savanna, but also
it happens to be dry at this time.
Yeah, it should be
right?
dry because it is El Nino year this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it affects the biomass much more faster to dry.
Got it.
And of course, the ignition came from anybody actually can be also from nature or can be also from somebody doing it.
So obviously this is a very ripe to happen because there's the ignition, there's the biomass, and also we're experiencing the dry season as well, right? So the wildfire itself destroyed 504 hectares of savanna land. Can you share us the impact to the area?
So yeah, actually there are several ways to impact the area. First, of course, the fire itself, it heat up the temperature in the area, and at the same time when it heat up, the surrounding area also can be prone to fire as well. If you have vegetation with quiet, wet vegetation, but if you have fire surrounding your vegetation, then it's also getting dry. So then much more easier to be burned. That's the first one. The second one, probably the area, the most impactful effect for the area is small animal, particularly those living in the area. And also if they have less ability to move, that will be much more impactful because soon when there is a wind as well as fire, then they cannot catch up.
And where are all this wildlife running to? Obviously, they can't stay within the area. What has happened to them? Will they be able to, I mean, they're displaced, but will they be able to find new homes or?
Yeah, actually, in the best case is there is a refugee where there is an area where they quite safe and also can hide there, and they can do refugee there. But otherwise, if they cannot run far away, then
They
will
just die.
And what kind of animals are we talking
Yeah.
about here, by the way?
Yeah, I think it's in savanna, particularly in this area, there are not so many species. Particularly the smaller animal will be there, and because it also at higher level, so not many animal can stay there.
Okay.
So there's an article that said this incident may actually have some benefits, especially for savanna land. Can you explain a bit more the benefits and also the bad impact that this created?
I may not say benefit at this point, but worldwide, savanna can also occur in, like example, in Africa, in Australia, or in eastern part of Indonesia. So one important thing savanna burning is happen every year in Africa, and it is culturally embedded with their nature. Why? Because they practice pastoralism, where they raise cattle, and the cattle need food, and how to improve the food quality is the way is to burn the savanna, and then it will sprout a new leaf.
Okay.
The new leaf is provide a new nutritious what we call grass. So that's preferred by the animal. That's the way fire can support these practices. And also at the same time, in Africa, people try to avoid tsetse flies. Maybe you know. That's the flies that really dangerous for the health.
Yes, okay, I hear.
So this smoke can help them to avoid them. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So it seems like a cycle of nature that is actually happening in other parts of the world, in savanna in Africa. But what about here in Indonesia? This is a Taman Nasional, that is secured by government. It's supposed to be protected. Now, what about this case? Whether this is also something that we actually need to do, or this is actually can destroy the place?
Yeah, I think we should stick on the definition of national park. So the national park is actually an area or ecosystem that has unique values and have important value for the nation, and should be protected in the way we manage the area through zonation in Indonesia. So we manage it, the area for zonation, like for example for tourism and other, just for protection. So if they open the area for tourism, it should be ecotourism. Means it should be responsible tourism, not only just mass tourism. I think this problem is that we may not really practice ecotourism, where visitors come for responsible tourism and supporting conservation for the area. That's probably the first problem, that they don't really understand what they can do within national park. That's why then it affects the misbehavior of the people come to the national park.
So this incident has gone viral, especially for the couple whose pre-wed pictures are being taken, not once, but actually twice, because not only did this incident go viral, but the apology later on went a little bit viral as well, where the gentleman stated that, you know, there wasn't enough information being shared with us as tourists as what to do or what not to do. Obviously, in my mind, it's common sense for you not to light any sort of flames around dry brush, but perhaps it isn't to everyone. So let's talk a little bit about that, because this obviously went viral because the incident was so strange in itself, having pre-wed pictures out in the middle of that sort of setting. But it is not uncommon for somebody to bring, let's say, a little gas stove or something when they're out hiking so they can heat up something or eat, or whether they're camping. So elements of fire still do exist. It's not just people bringing flares to take pictures. So what is the biggest lesson that we've learned from this incident in regards to those that are hiking or traveling out in these areas? Because this incident is probably not going to be the only incident like this, probably unique to the way it happened, but really not really unique in the way that fires can be started. And as you said, it can naturally even happen sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Flames can be ignited in nature.
Yeah, I think first, if we really follow the SIMAXI is the permit to enter the national park.
Okay.
There is also some
Guidelines? Is it
Guidelines,
rules? What does it state actually? Because we're not sure as well.
It can be vary between national park. Like
Okay.
example, for the national park with mainly have a lot of savanna, they must be very.
Oh, I see. Depending on what type of areas it is, there's different rules.
But I think the main thing is that we should not do harmless for the nature. That's the first thing that must be in any SIMAXI.
Okay.
And I think through this donation concept by the national park, they provide an area that you can do like camping and they also normally provide some what you call for stove or even.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think those area we can do like cooking or.
Yeah, I've heard that there's designated campsites where if you want to camp out, you have to just do it there. Don't just do it in random areas where it could be more dangerous, right? Okay, so are these rules and guidelines easily accessible for those that want to visit, or how do we access?
Yeah. You know, we as a visitor in national, we should behave like ecotourism. Means you have to aware that you come to the area as a responsible tourist.
Okay.
That's mean
That's up to us then.
Yeah, that's also need to be understood by many people that if we go to a national park or protected area, we come as a visitor and have to be responsible and first respect nature.
Okay.
Is the main thing that we have to understand. And of course, you have to follow the regulation because it's stated there that we should not do harm. Of course, it might not be so detailed, like don't.
Yes.
So
you can be picky about it and say, this gentleman was saying, well, there's no signs saying you can't light fires. Well, you can't exactly put signs of everything you can't do everywhere, especially in nature, right? Because you don't know where people are going to go.
Yeah. In extreme way, we need more control, but I don't think so. That also will be good for us. I mean, awareness to educate people to understand how we should behave in the nature is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I think being very respectful wherever you go, whether that's to your relative's house or in this case, national park environment, then you need to be really conscious about what you do. Especially they were doing a big production, photo shoot, big production, right? Okay, so the government is today reopening the space again for tourists. Do you think it's a good idea?
Yeah, I think my point is the same as I mentioned before, that if we open again, it is a good momentum for us to remind ourselves that ecotourism should be done in the national park, not mass tourism. That means we have to limit number of visitors. We have to understand when the nature getting worse, and we have to stop the visitor. That's the way we manage the nature. We could not know everything, so what we can do is to see the trend. If it is getting worse, then we should stop. And I think that's the way we should manage the national park for tourism.
How long will it grow back?
Actually, nature can heal themselves. So as long as there will be rain, it will be grows very quick, I think.
Okay.
And in the nature, there is also some, I forgot the name in English, embun.
Oh, fog.
Fog, yeah.
Yes.
So fog can also source of water.
Condensation, correct.
Yeah, condensation. Sometimes you can, then maybe couple weeks there will be a sprout.
Yes. That's true.
So that will be.
If anything, I think you got a great point there in regards to if people do visit now, it may seem too soon as you see extensive damage, but as people take pictures of the area and visit, it can be a reminder to everyone out there of the dangers, because you can love nature and go out to national parks, but like you said, it's more important to respect nature and know that it can actually turn on you if you do the wrong thing, and it can be very dangerous as well.
And it's basically common sense, right? If you go to an environment where
don't light fires in the
don't
dry
light
bush.
fires, it's dry bush, and just be careful and respectful, right? So, one last question from Az. In your opinion, should tourism in natural environment be off limits to tourists, meaning that the tourists shouldn't go there?
To certain areas,
To
perhaps,
certain
right?
areas, yes.
Yeah. Actually, national park have the idea of making donation to limit the tourism. So like example, some area we call it intensive use zone, that visitor can come there. But if you have a main area or we call it zona inti, it means you should not go there except for research or education. That's the only limiting factor for you can do. So I think national park provide a good way to compromise between the need of the people for having leisure, but also at the same time protect the nature.
I completely agree. And for our own safety as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, not all areas should be visited because it might pose a danger to us.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time and for your
Welcome.
perspective on this. And we hope that these sort of incidences are very isolated.
Yeah,
Should
thank
not happen again.
Thank you so much, Imron, for
Thank you.
coming. All right, for now on, we'll be moving to our next break. But when we return, we'll have more stories. So stay tuned on the Same Morning Show, only on See Today.